All right, can we start off with having you introduce yourself before we get into it?
Yeah. So my name's Eric Ross. I am a circus sideshow performer. I am also a collector of true crime memorabilia and osteology and oddities.
So today I want to talk about the case of Ted Bundy, and there's an item that you're going to show after we're done talking about it. So we
Sure.
can first talk about the case. I mean, anybody and everybody listening knows the Ted Bundy case, but we can just, briefly run down, victims, states, the escapes, and so on and so forth.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. He was quite the escape artist, that's for sure. He was. But yeah. I mean, where would you like to start?
I guess we can start with what would it would be Washington State, right?
So it would have been Washington State, correct? That's where he was living. He was living in Washington. He back in I think it was July 14th of 1974. There was like this. It was on a beach. There was a lake. There was like 40,000 people there. They say.
Like some
I don't
Amish,
know if
yeah,
there's.
I've been there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, he actually abducts one girl in front of everybody. Goes up with his broken, acts like he has a broken arm. Talks her into helping him or whatever. Abducts her, comes back a few hours later and abducts a second victim there. That would have been Janice Ott and Denise Basling, I think her name was Basling. Um, in the same day, he would come back and take another one um, from there. So they both went missing. Their remains were actually found like 3 months later on the hillside, but their remains were actually found with the third victim's remains, Georgianne Hawkins, who went missing like months before. So they found like all three victims in the area in Washington, in the mountains there.
Yeah, pretty crazy. I know Washington, he had 11 victims. That was the state with the most victims he had just in one state alone.
Yeah, but he said I mean, he was so we'll keep going back and forth here, but he had a lot in Washington. Also, what was it, Utah, I believe, and then Florida, of course. But he's also suspected like Oregon, California. He was actually only convicted of three murders. The two of the sorority girls in Florida, and then the 12-year-old in Florida. Those are what he was convicted of. But he's confessed to 30 murders, suspected of over 100.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the victims list right here. It says Washington 11, Utah 8, three unidentified in Washington as well, three in
Hmm.
Colorado, three in Florida, two in Oregon, both unidentified, two in Idaho, one unidentified, one in California, unidentified. Then it says the following is and then there's a list of the 20 identified victims, and then the five survivors, and from 1974 up until his last hurrah in Florida.
Hmm. That would have been December of 77, January of 78 when he did the Florida stuff.
Yeah, yeah, because the final murders were, I guess the final murder was Kimberly Leach, and that was February 9th of
Yes.
78.
Yep. That's correct. Kimberly Lee, she was 12 years old, man. Abducted her from school. And yeah, she was never seen again, man. And he was pulled over shortly after that for driving a stolen vehicle. And they had him again. That was after his second escape. So after a second escape, he went into the sorority house and then Leach and then got pulled over, got that's where they caught him and charged him with those murders.
Yeah, his case is so crazy because it's like, I guess it follows Geen in the sense of, necrophilia, and I mean, I guess he did keep body parts in a sense, I mean, he did cut their heads off and kept their bodies.
Yeah. Yeah, a
Mm.
lot of people don't know that. He actually that was his quite often he would sever their heads and he would cut, and in fact when remains were found they would just find skulls away from the bodies. He would sever their heads. But there was times where when he was living in his own place, he would keep the victims at his own house for like days before he would go discard of the bodies.
Yeah, just like having sex with the bodies or putting makeup on them or whatever.
Hmm.
Just
Hmm.
being a weirdo with on top of being a weirdo.
Yeah, for sure. He his childhood, it started because there were stories from his childhood, man, where it started with like he would torture cats and stuff. He would like tie them up and set them on fire, and like all the kids in the neighborhood would be like screaming trying to put out the cats that were on fire and stuff. And so he always had like just a sick fascination with torturing things. I know from an early childhood, I know his mother gave birth to him, what, November 24th, 1946. She was from Pennsylvania, went to Vermont to a home for women that give birth out of wedlock. So he never knew his father. So mom went to Vermont, gave birth, and then from there, it was going to be said that his grandparents were his parents. That was the deal. So for the first 5 years of his life, they tried that, but the grandpa was super abusive, like physically abusive to the grandma, the mom, and Ted. In fact, he gave Ted a speech impediment from the physical abuse. But at age 5, mom decides to she decides to, and that was Louise Carroll is his mother. They decide to go live with her uncle. So they move away, they go live with the uncle who had a good life and a decent life, tried to give them a decent life. And that's where Ted tried to fit in, but never could as a 5-year-old child. She would later meet her husband. I think it was John. Was it John Bundy? Ted's adopted father, who adopted Ted, gave him the last name. And then he had a good life. He was a cook, like on ships and stuff, and he would cook. He was a like gourmet chef, and gave Ted a really good life after that point. But for the first like 5 years of his life, and then also just in his childhood, there was just a lot of trauma and just messed up stuff he would do after the abuse from his grandpa.
Yeah, he definitely had that, stereotypical serial killer childhood, like abuse and, red flag after red flag and,
Mm.
like people talk about nowadays, like the FBI teaches and everything. Like, I mean, I guess he's one of what the golden age killers that they make studies off of and everything and teach to this day about, profiling and whatever.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, especially because this was 70s, early 70s, mid 70s, where forensics in general weren't that advanced. Neither were the just the way police handle cases. The reason it took so long to piece that there was a serial killer moving state to state is because at that time, police were so incompetent for one, but also they were very stubborn. So police at that time and the detectives at that time, if someone were to be like, "Hey, why don't we ask so and so if they'd be like, no, this is my case. Like I got this. This is my case. I don't need help from any other, so they wouldn't even communicate or anything to put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah, and like nowadays, I don't think a Ted Bundy would be able to operate past maybe 3 murders if he'd be lucky, or somebody like Gacy or whoever was, sexually assaulting their victims, and whether they were leaving evidence behind or leaving bodies behind or not. I think it's hard nowadays, especially for serial murderers. I mean, you got mass shooters nowadays more than serial killers because you kill
Right.
1, 2 people. It's like there's a camera on every street corner.
Well, there's been so many advancements in science and forensics, man. Like the facial recognition, you got the DNA, the database, you got all kinds of things now that they didn't have back in the 70s.
So you have something from Bundy there pulled out, right?
Yeah, so he would go to they would arrest him. He was actually arrested the first time because there was a victim that actually got away from him. Okay. Um her last name was
Was it?
Duranch. It was Duranch. What was her first name? Uh she got away, man. So when she got away, he uh he actually went like a 2 hour drive. So she escapes from him in the car. He abducts her in the car. She escapes. He takes a 2-hour drive and goes, abducts, and kills somebody else same day. So he would get arrested because he actually drove by a cop acting suspicious. Cop pulls him over. He's dressed all in black. So they pull him over for, they see all the burglary stuff in his car. He had a ice pick and rope and like just all this burglary stuff. So they picked him up for suspicion of burglary. Come to find out, they're like, wait a minute, I think we're looking for you. You tried to rape and abduct this woman. She points him out in the lineup. He goes to jail. He escapes, man, the first time. He jumps out of so he's representing himself in court, defending himself. They let him go into the study of the courthouse where all the books are by himself. The officer that's supposed to be watching him actually kept taking smoke breaks, smoked cigarettes. And when he left for a smoke break, Ted jumped out the window, escapes. He's gone like 5 days. They pick him up again. So while they pick him up, he actually gets convicted. He gets sentenced to 1 to 15 years for the abducted or the attempted abduction of her. And while he's serving time, they charge him with this first murder. That's the first murder he was charged with, an Aspen girl up in Aspen, Colorado. Credit cards, receipts, and credit card information actually put him in that area at that time. So they charged him with her murder. And they found her hair in his Volkswagen that they had. So he's back in jail. He's being charged with this stuff now. Then he does his second escape, man. So this would have been, he actually cuts a hole where the light fixture is above his, in his jail cell, cuts a hole, crawls out of it, and he's gone, man. He disappears. And this is when he takes off to Florida. But during all this time, he's going to court. He's got all these court dates. You see him on TV going through the court. So what we have here is one of his, this would be an official court document from 1978.
And that was like stamped by the court and everything, right? Like it's original from their file.
This is original, stamped, actually signed twice by Theodore Robert Bundy.
So Ted Bundy is a name that people are always asking about. Do you have Ted Bundy? Do you have Ted Bundy? And I'm telling people if you're wanting a Bundy, expect to fork some money over. Some people usually think that some of this stuff, Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, whatever, you could just come up with like $100, $200, and just pick up something as easy as that. But so something like that. What would you say? That would be worth, just if people might be curious as to what a double signature, Bundy might go.
So when you think about what this is, it is just a piece of paper from the courthouse that he signed twice. Something like this has a value on the low end, fast sell, talking about $2,500. But I've seen them go for up to $4,000, so it all depends on what someone's willing to pay for something like that.
Yeah, and some people might think that's crazy, but at the same time, some people pay like what, $20,000 for a T-shirt or
yeah,
or whatever.
Yeah,
things will go up in value over time. They'll never lose their value, like a jacket or a bag, whatever. Like, say you buy from Gary Ridgway, 20 years from now, it's gonna only go up in value, never go down. So murderabilia is definitely an investment if you think about it that way. If that's how you want to play it.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, you ain't lying. Every year this stuff goes up in value. And I am never I like to think of like what I do. I just kind of, it is history, it's dark history, but it is history. There's so many people interested in history in general and true crime in general. So to have a piece of true crime history, for me, it's not about the money. I don't sell, I don't flip things. I don't sell things. Anything I get, it's just for, to preserve history, in my opinion. And, but yeah, I see the value of these things just go up and up and up and up. And it's because there's so many people out there. It became a pop culture thing, really, this true crime collecting or murderabilia. It's become a pop culture thing where like everybody wants to do it now. Back when we started, talking and years ago, it was just a few of us, man. Now there are so many people out here just doing it for fun, just to brag and stuff, and it's just, I don't do that. Like I don't. This is the first time I've actually talked about like any of my collection publicly or anything, you know. And I'm doing it to preserve, you know, the dark history of what it is. But it's crazy to see the value of these things go up because so many people are doing it. You got a demand and not a big supply, and there's a huge demand for this stuff now. And it's getting harder and harder to find because more and more people are collecting. And then you also have people that are buying things just to flip them and make a living. Like it's what they do for a living. You know, they want to buy it and then sell it to make a profit, which also is a reason, you know, a lot of the stuff's getting more pricey.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I won't lie, I was one of those people, but I'm kind of going in a different direction. I'm selling everything off myself. I mean, I'm keeping some things, and it definitely is, you know, history. Like my storage unit. I know I have one of the twinned pieces, you know, Roy Norris and the
Right.
bit hole coming on one another, and it's so hard for me to want to sell like my Charles Manson signed Polaroid, and it was hard for me to sell that Eileen robe and everything. But I figured
Hmm.
all these more high end pieces are more than likely going to go to people that are going to preserve them in museum like displays, and better than me just having it collect dust in some old musty tote, you know.
Right.
Um, yeah, I think people collect for different reasons, but I've definitely seen people just buy it or resell. Like people will message me and be like, "Which killer's worth more than these others?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? Like what letters are worth more money? What art can I get more money out of?" Like if that's what you're writing for, then like cool, but you know, whatever.
Yeah, that's what I do appreciate. You know, you'll hit me up like, I have this. I want you to have it. Like, let's make a deal, man, because you you need this. I don't want anyone else having it. I want you to have it. So I'm always like, all right, bro, let's
Right,
figure it
right.
out, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, I appreciate that.
there's some things that I probably wouldn't sell to some random person, like something that I feel like is museum quality. Like, for instance, like my Iraq Pribke letter, like my he's a Nazi war criminal double signed letter. Like, I don't think I'd sell that to anybody, like unless it were a museum or a serious collector, because I want to see that like somewhere someday, you know. And some of this stuff, like imagine like a Charles Manson string art doll, like getting
Hmm.
lost in a move or something like that, or like Jeffrey Dahmer's glasses being busted up, or I mean,
Right.
maybe that's like losing a house or something like that, you know, like something
Yeah.
devastating. But
Yeah. Yeah. I can understand that for sure. That man, I know who owns Jeffrey's glasses, and if they were to ever fall off his shelf, that would be so depressing. If they were to
yeah,
fall and
yeah, I've seen them a few times. Yeah, that would definitely be like dropping a newborn baby and being like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" But um before we get out of here, is there anything that you want to talk about? I know that you're on break from Hell's a Poppin' right now, and I don't know if you're
Sure.
planning to go back on the road anytime soon or
So yeah, I mean, I'm on break right now. Um, I do got some solo stuff lined up where I'll be doing, especially, you know, September, October, that kind of season. So I got a lot of offers coming my way right now. I gotta figure it out, see what I'm doing exactly. I did a run with Hells again. That was since March. I've been with them. I just got home 2 days ago, so that was a lot of fun. But I'm looking at these other gigs here, these other options to see what's going to be more make more sense, you know. So yeah, I mean, I don't know anything solid right now. It's all just offers coming in. We'll see what happens, but definitely it's for me performing the sideshow stuff. But other than that, I'm just chilling, man. I'm just and happy to be home and relaxing right now.
sweet. And your social media platform is at the bottom left of the screen, huh? At Eric Ross Live.
Let's see, it's right there at Eric Ross Live. Yep, you find me on social media. Hit me up if you guys have any questions or want to book me or just want to chat. I mean, I'm around.
Sweet. Well, we'll definitely do this again in the near future. I know we've talked about like 5 different cases, so we can definitely, you know, knock some out in the near future again.
Yeah, yeah, man. It's always fun to chat and you know, with like-minded uh, people who have similar interests. So always happy to chat. You've seen some of my collection. I mean, I got some pretty cool stuff I'd love to share and we can talk about. And we'll do that soon for sure.